Argentina is the venue for round 3 of the FIM MX2 and the MXGP World Championship. Belgian Clément Desailles' consistency season tops the MXGP standings from champion Antonio Caroli, while Dutchman Jeffrey Herlings has shown he's over his broken leg by running the table in MX2. Race 1 live on Motors TV Sunday, March 29th at 5 in the afternoon, with Race 2 live at 8 in the evening the same day.
Second FIM Ice Speedway event of the season in Germany, and this time it's World Championship action as the fans travel to the country's southeastern fringes for the final event of the title race. 4 riders have hopes of the crown. Dmitry Koltakov put one hand on the trophy last time out in Assen. Round 4 of the campaign took the riders to the historic Stadium de Bontewever in Assen. Return to European ice meant a return to form for the home riders. Günther Bauer back to his best and close to the pace of the again dominant Russians. Dmitry Koltakov continued to extend his championship lead with heat victories over his main rivals. He ended Dmitry Kometsevich's hopes of a maximum in Heat 10. And then maintained his own unbeaten record with a victory against the previously unbeaten Daniil Ivanov. Seven rides and 7 wins in the final reckoning. Koltakov showing just how he has amassed such an advantage as he halved the way through from behind and onto the top step of the podium once again. Racing on day 1 had been fairly sedate, but the action came alive when the riders returned to the ice the following afternoon. Jan Klazowski provided the thrills in Heat 10 with a classic win over his brother. And he wasn't the only European at getting into the mix. Franz Zorn dropping just 1 point from his first ride. The Austrian ended the meeting on the injury list after a Heat 20 crash. He returns in Inzel. Dmitry Koltakov was beaten just once all weekend, and that defeat came in his 14th ride of the contest. Daniil Ivanov out-trapped his rival and then held on to the finish for the victory. Dmitry Koltakov nurses a 21-point lead over his nearest championship rivals. 3 riders are separated by just 2 points in the race for the final podium spaces. With 17 points over their nearest rivals, a quartet of Russian riders is in play for the World Championship coming into the final weekend of the season. Reigning title holder Daniil Ivanov trails them in 4th.
This season going very hard for me because from start season I have little problem with my bike, change suspension and a little bit change from last year, little parts change from last year. But after middle of season going better and better. Now it's I think now my form is like last year. The 3 riders have same point from 2nd to 4th place. It will be very strong fight.
Dmitry Kovacevic enjoyed an upsurge in form in the Netherlands. I can't say what the reason was. I like to ride in Assen. It's one of my favourite tracks. As everyone, I tried to do my best, but in the end that wasn't enough to win. The others were maybe more aggressive, I can't say. Igor Kononov has lacked the consistency of the leader. Dmitry Koltakov has been good all season. Everyone else has had some bad results, but he's done well all season. I've had technical problems. The season started fine with setups, and I felt very comfortable on the bike. But not even my mechanics know where the problems have come from. Dmitry Koltakov has a commanding 21-point advantage. Everybody knows that I had a leg injury in the Russian Championship, which was a big hit, and I was afraid to miss the World Championship. So I did much more intensive training program to be ready for this year, and I think that's been the key to my success. This weekend I will minimise the risk a bit because I know I could lose the title with an injury, but I will still try to ride as well as possible and take care of the points I need to win the championship. The ice stadium Inzel is Europe's fastest speed skating rink, which once a year converts its use for World Championship Ice Speedway. This weekend, its 10,000 capacity will be tested by the sport's many Bavarian fans who come to a spectacular setting that has hosted Ice Speedway for almost 50 years. Niedermayer is the wildcard for his home event. The German was a championship regular last year but finished just 15th in the competition. His inclusion brings the total number of Germans up to 4. As ever, riders would score championship points in every race, with the top 8 riders moving through to the semi-finals. Dmitry Koltakov extended his championship lead to 24 points with victory in Heat 1. The Russian success left him now just 18 points from the title, while behind him Stefan Svensson took second ahead of Jan Kotowski. Stefan Pletschaker's nightmare season continued as he trailed at the back in front of his home crowd. Franz Zorn's fast starting continues to make him a threat to even the top Russian riders. He lacked the pace to hold on from Daniil Ivanov in Heat 2. The reigning champion finding a way past on lap 2. Zorn then settled in for a predicted second place, with Gunther Bauer beating Per-Anders Lindstrom for the point at the bag. It had been a difficult start to the meeting for the German representatives, and that trend continued in Heat 3. Max Niedermayer fell alone and brought a halt to the race. Disqualification, a disappointing start to the match for the wildcard. Daniel Henderson was the rider to take advantage of the restart, getting into an early second position behind Dmitry Kovacevic. Jan Kotowski rode aggressively in pursuit, but his challenge was ended when he almost hit Henderson on lap 3. The top 4 riders in the championship standings all rode in a different opening heat in Inzel, so it was no great surprise that they all finished the round as race winners. It was Igor Kononov's turn to take the checkered flag in Heat 4. Behind him, Harold Simon and Hans Weber provided an entertaining scrap, the German favouring the outside as ever, and it was Simon of Austria who continued to fight back on the curb and eventually shut out his rival. Daniel Henderson sat in the top 8 after the opening round of heat races, while both Klotowski brothers and, more surprisingly, Vitaly Kovacevic were outside of the qualification zone. Hans Weber continued to find himself in the thick of the action in the chaotic early stages of Heat 5, 4 evenly matched Europeans tussling for position. It was the young German who gave way on lap 2, falling heavily into the bend 2 safety fence. The referee judged that Gunther Bauer's forceful inside move had brought Weber to grief, and the veteran was disqualified from the rerun. Weber looked out of sorts after that impact, lacking his usual aggression and simply trailed around to pick up the point. Meanwhile, despite amassing a significant lead, Daniel Henderson continued to push. He was fortunate to save the machine when he almost went down on the final lap. Igor Kononov took a comfortable checkered flag in heat 6 to put the championship pressure back on Dmitry Koltikov. The Russian sat on 6 points after 2 rides, while behind him Stefan Svensson moved on to 4. His fellow countryman Per-Anders Lindstrom has only once broken the 4-point barrier this year and was never at the races in Inzel. Dmitry Koltikov joined Igor Kononov at the top of the day standings with a second win of the day. Franz Zorn again had to settle for second behind a Russian rider, with his fellow Austrian Harold Simon behind. After his first ride disqualification, Max Niedermayer suffered another in heat 7, this time for exceeding track limits in the closing stages. Heat 8's lineup was worthy of a semi-final and provided the best entertainment of the day so far. Daniel Ivanov made an unspectacular start to the race, but engaged Dmitry Kometsevich in a 4-lap tussle, searching for a break on the inside line. It wasn't until the final lap that Ivanov finally found a way to burst through, making it a 3-way tie at the top of the day standings. Three riders tied on 6 points were set to face one another in round 3. Meanwhile, Vitaly Kometsevich sat surprisingly on just 1 point from 2 rides and in desperate need of a turnaround in his next outing. The 4 riders for Heat 9 had just 3 points between them from the opening 2 rounds. Stefan Plekschacker, the highest scoring of them, with 2. And the German crashed heavily on lap 2 and suffered an arm injury that ruled him out of the weekend's remaining competition. In the restaging, Max Niedermayer and Per-Anders Lindstrom both picked up their first points of the day, some way behind predictable race winner Vitaly Kometsevich. A lap 1 crash in Heat 10 brought the action back for a second staging. And the rerun provided an entertaining scrap between veterans Harold Simon and Stefan Svensson, the Austrian digging into his favourite inside line, while Svensson continued to nudge ahead. Finally, Simon blocked out his rival forcefully on lap 3, securing the 2 points behind Dmitry Kometsevich. Heat 11 provided an entertaining race between 3 of the top 4 in the World Championship. Daniel Ivanov continued his impressive late-season form with the whole shot and the early race lead, while Igor Kononov was forced back to 3rd in the early stages. It wasn't until lap 3 that Dmitry Koltikov was in range to strike for the win. Victory in the 3rd round of heat races maintained his unbeaten run, pushed him 1 step closer to the title. Franz Zorn took his first race win of the day in round 3, moving on to a personal tally of 7 points from his outings. The main battle in Heat 12 was over second. Jan Klatowski, the faster of the Czech brothers, as he closed in on Hans Weber and passed him on lap 2. The German wasn't done yet and repassed Klatowski on lap 3 for 2 well-earned points. Heat 11 had been the biggest result of round 3, with Igor Kononov trailing in behind Ivanov and Koltikov. The results wiped out Kononov's advantage in 2nd in the championship, with Kometsevich pulling level on 128 points. Vitaly Kometsevich remained outside of the top 8 despite his round 3 win, while his fellow countrymen locked out the top positions. Koltikov's championship lead grew to 23 points. Dmitry Kometsevich took a second win of the afternoon after getting the better of Igor Kononov in Heat 13. The result moved Kometsevich above Kononov in the championship and into second for the first time since Krasnogorsk. Hard-earned success. Kononov's outside run made him a constant threat, and it took some genuine aggression from Kometsevich to keep his rival behind him. Franz Zorn, meanwhile, took an easy third from reserve Marcus Gell at the back. Stefan Svensson was the surprise early race leader after making the start from the inside. Daniel Ivanov briefly settled in second before making his way past the Swede on lap 2. Hans Weber sat on 5 points after his fourth ride, bettering fellow countryman Max Niedermayer disqualified for a third time of the afternoon. With points to make up ahead of the semi-finals, Vitaly Kometsevich made a determined start to lead early in Heat 15, but was eventually overhauled by Dmitry Koltakov on lap 2. Gunther Bauer's struggles continued as he was held inexplicably at the back and was left on just 1 point from 4 rides. The German, seemingly struggling with the effects of his earlier crash, withdrew from his final outing. Daniel Henderson moved on to a personal best 8-point score with a second victory of the afternoon when he outgated his rivals from the inside in Heat 16. The Swede moved into a provisional semi-final space as he powered away from Harold Simon behind him. The Austrian looked short of his best form, but managed to hold back and infuriate Antonin Klotowski with a sharp inside line to the finish. Dmitry Koltakov, Daniel Ivanov and Dmitry Kometsevich moved into the top 3 championship positions and booked their spaces in the semi-finals. Vitaly Kometsevich remained outside of the top 8 despite his first race win. Daniel Ivanov moved provisionally top of the day standings with a Heat 17 win. The real race was behind him. And Simon needed 2 points to move through to the semi-finals, but was overhauled by Jan Klotowski for second on lap number 2. Determined, Simon repassed 2 bends later to capture the space he needed. The opening 2 laps of Heat 18 provided the greatest entertainment. Punching on turn number 1, sending Vitaly Kometsevich briefly to the back, but he fought his way through the middle of the field, carving past both of the Swedes and setting off in pursuit of Franz Zorn. Stefan Svensson attempted to pick off Daniel Henderson down the inside at the back, while Kometsevich got himself into all sorts of difficulty trying to repass Zorn. Svensson popped back past for second. Eventually the positions were settled, with Zorn out in front, Kometsevich in second. Hans Weber delighted the German fans with the fastest start in Heat 19. The race would later turn to disaster. Dmitry Koltakov picked him up on the opening lap to relegate him to third, and while Koltakov went off in pursuit of Dmitry Kometsevich, Weber pulled up at the back with mechanical failure. Antonin Klotowski had a day to forget in Inzel, but achieved his best results of the day from the back in Heat 20. The Czech picked off reserve Marcus Gell on lap 2 before chasing down Max Niedermayer. His eventual pass of the German gave him 12th in the meeting, with Niedermayer slipping behind him in 30th. Stefan Svensson was the unfortunate rider to miss out on countback after 3 riders tied on 8. He would look back to his Heat 10 underperformance at the moment that qualification slipped away. The pressure was on for the title as the riders prepared for the first semi-final. Dmitry Kolchakov just 5 points away from his first world crown. Igor Kononov lined up in blue in the knowledge that his championship hopes could only be extended with a race win, while Harold Simon and Daniel Henderson were the make-weights off the outside gates. Will join the action in the second staging after the disqualification of Harold Simon. Kolchakov, Kononov and Henderson, the three remaining riders for the first semi-final, and it's Kononov and Henderson who've made the starts. Kolchakov down in third position early on, kicks off Henderson coming off turn 2 though, and now the expected favourites are leading the way, but can Dmitry Kolchakov find a way past Igor Kononov, who looks over his shoulder at the end of the opening lap, switches straight back to his favoured outside line, finding plenty of speed wide on the outside up close to the bales, Igor Kononov, and Dmitry Kolchakov might well have to stretch himself if he wants to take the race win here. Might find himself happy enough with second position, knowing that he needs just 5 points from his remaining 2 rides to pick up the World Championship. This will knock 2 off that tally. A race victory in his final ride, and the grand final here today would therefore see him crowned world champion with a day to spare. It's Kononov who leads the way then. Kolchakov looking back to the inside on turns 1 and 2. I sense that he won't stretch himself in the closing stages, won't want to drop these 2 points and miss out on the final. He'll be happy enough to settle in behind Kononov, who takes the checkered flag in the first semi-final. Kolchakov in second. Daniel Henderson finding out just how long he's got to go in this competition before he can make it to the top pace of the leading Russians, Kolchakov and Kononov. Both Daniil Ivanov and Dmitry Kometsevich needed a race win to remain in mathematical contention for the world crown after Dmitry Kolchakov's exploits a race before. The tension around the championship deciders had been further amplified. Vitaly Kometsevich was disqualified for a fall and forced a rerun. Ivanov, Kometsevich and Zorn, the remaining 3 riders for the second semi, and it's Dmitry Kometsevich who's made the start. Zorn pushed straight out around the outside line, and Ivanov pops through for a 1-2 for the Russian representatives. Ivanov in hot pursuit though of the early race leader Dmitry Kometsevich, who seems the slur of the 2 leading Russians. Ivanov bursting wide around turn number 1. He'll try and square off the turn coming off turn 2, almost pulls alongside, but not quite, and has to switch back to the outside as Kometsevich clamps it. Now he's run wide off the turn. Ivanov can pull alongside and pull through. Brilliant overtaking from Daniil Ivanov, textbook stuff. Kometsevich not quite finished yet, but he hit a rut going back into turn 1, killed his own momentum, and now he's going to have to rebuild his attack from behind as Daniil Ivanov heads into the final lap as the race leader. Ivanov, who needed a win here to remain in mathematical contention for the crown, is going to get just that. It would take an absolute disaster for Kolchakov not to win the title now, but Ivanov is keeping things in his own hands with a race victory in the second semi-final. Dmitry Kometsevich finishes second, and Franz Zorn the length of half a straight behind the lead Russians as he is eliminated. A wave to his crowd is appreciation for the local support, but Franz Zorn is eliminated alongside Vitaly Kometsevich, Dmitry Kometsevich and Daniil Ivanov moving through to the final. The lineup for the final. Daniil Ivanov will go off the inside start position in red, just 1 defeat so far for 2014's winner. Gate 2 in blue will be Dmitry Kolchakov. A win here will give him the world title. Gate 3 in white, Igor Kononov, 135 championship points, tied with Daniil Ivanov, a point ahead of Dmitry Kometsevich, who goes off the outside gate here in the yellow helmet colour. This is favourite circuit from the 2014 champion. Can Kometsevich spring a surprise here? 3 riders level down into the first turn. Ivanov makes the break, but 2 have slammed into the bales. The rider in the white helmet colour, Igor Kononov, under a pile of machines and safety fence as Kometsevich goes down with him. The first staging having been ruled an unsatisfactory start, all 4 are back for the restaging. And it's Ivanov again who makes the break off the inside, trapped in second by the rider in the blue helmet colour, Dmitry Kolchakov, who's picked off all 3 of the riders around the first 2 turns. Victory here would give Kolchakov the title. Meanwhile, out at the back, Kononov is making progress. He's picked off Dmitry Kometsevich, Ivanov, last year's champion, going off in pursuit of this year's champion-elect. Dmitry Koltakov leading the way towards the half-race distance, just over 2 laps from the title. Ivanov keeping up the pressure. He's been in fine form throughout the day here, but can he make that final step to get the better of Dmitry Koltakov and to force him to work into tomorrow's event as well? It doesn't look like it at the moment. Dmitry Koltakov, he's finished runner-up. He's been close to this man, Ivanov. Now he's going to get the better of him, both on today's action here in Inzel and in the World Championship as a whole. Ivanov hits a rut off turn 2. It's game over surely for the reigning champion as Dmitry Koltakov rounds the final 2 turns to take the win in Inzel and to take the 2015 World Individual Ice Speedway Championship. Dmitry Koltakov to celebrate then after his impeccable 2015 efforts. He takes the crown here in Germany. Dmitry Koltakov finishes as the day's top scorer, dropping just 1 point to an opponent, Daniil Ivanov, his closest competitor, moving up to second in the championship. Dmitry Komisevich missing out on today's podium, but still a useful 15 championship points added to his tally, and Franz Zorn finishes with his personal best of 12. I found it really hard to find the right setup for the bike, so I'm very happy to make the podium.
Thank you for congratulations, but yes, it was a very hard day, very hard race, and first one want congratulations to Dmitry Koltakov who's win World Championship, and today was a good race, but result is not best one because was 2 points. Very important point for me.
I'm so happy for me and my team about this result because they worked so well and are so close to me all season. I'm the one who has to ride, but the team gives me something perfect to race, and that makes my job easier. So thank you to all of my friends and my family and to my mentor, Nikolai Krasnikov, for a great season.
Большое спасибо Николаю Красникову, Мустафину Петровичу. Огромное спасибо всем.
Harold Simon moves alongside Stefan Svensson for 7th in the standings behind the top European Franz Zorn in 6th. Lead Russians lock out the top 5 positions. But the first day in Inzel is all about Dmitry Koltakov. On 4 occasions this season, he's managed to top the 20-point barrier and will go into day 2 with an unassailable 24-point championship lead.
Goodwood is synonymous with motorsport class. The Goodwood Road and Racing Members Meeting is designed to recreate the atmosphere and camaraderie of the 1950s and the 1960s. Motors TV has all the fun live, including F1 cars from the 1970s. Sunday, March the 22nd at 3:30 in the afternoon on the High Speed Television channel. Listen to the roar as the bikes of the Thunder Sport Plus series take to the Brands Hatch track for the opening round of the season. Thursday, March the 26th at 7:55 in the evening on Motors TV, the High Speed Television channel. The best of motorsport from Down Under is on Motors TV, the Australasian Superbike Studio Show, 2014 review and 2015 preview. Thursday, March the 26th at 9:15 in the evening on the High Speed Television channel. Motors TV brought you the 12 hours of Sebring live. Now tune in to the highlights from the prestigious United Sports Car Championship event. Today at 12:55 in the afternoon on the High Speed Television channel.
Well, the local fans will have been disappointed to see their 4 home representatives score just 11 points between them on day 1. Some came into day 2 far more upbeat. Daniel Henderson scored a personal best 9 points across 6 rides in the opening meeting of the weekend.
Just need to focus on my starts. When the start's working, it's much easier to get points. If you're first and second out of the first bend, it's much easier to get points over the finish line.
Dmitry Komisevich, meanwhile, had no specific plans in his quest for the podium. It should be the same fight as every time. It's not especially about this race. We've been battling the whole season for this podium. Daniil Ivanov extended his advantage from second in the championship race with victory over the newly crowned champion Dmitry Koltukov. With the latter providing little threat for the race lead, the main battle was over third, where Jan Klotowski passed Per-Anders Lindström on lap 2. The Swede later fell in frustration, the start of another hard day for him. Harold Simmons' hopes of making the semi-finals took an early dent when he was disqualified from Heat 2. An inexplicable fall coming off the second bend, costing him a place in the restart. Anthony Klotowski gratefully received a gift single point, but was nowhere near the pace of the Kometsevich brothers in front. Vitaly only too pleased to support his brother's podium challenge as he sat back in second. 3 challengers for the 2 remaining World Championship podium positions each won their opening rides. Igor Kononov doing so in slightly easier company than his rivals in Heat 3. Stefan Svensson finished second ahead of Hans Weber, while Markus Gell stepped in to replace Stefan Pletschaka for the day and finished at the back in round 1. Günther Bauer has been massively inconsistent throughout 2015 and performed close to his best on day 2 in Inzel. His first ride saw him jet from the start ahead of Franz Zorn and easily passed by the Austrian around the inside on lap 2. Bauer did at least manage to hold on for second from Max Niedermayer. Daniel Henderson, after his heroics on day 1, was surprisingly trapped at the back. The Russian quintet was joined in the provisional top 8 by Stefan Svensson, Günther Bauer and Franz Zorn after the opening round of heat races. Harold Simmons stuck at the bottom of the pack. Daniel Henderson recorded his first point of the day in Heat 5 as he got the better of Antonin Klotowski around the first 2 turns. Igor Kononov moved second in the championship with 2 more points added to his tally. He finished runner-up to Dmitry Koltukov in round 2. Vitaly Kometsevich provided the entertainment in Heat 6 as he had to recover from a botched first turn. The Russian had been blocked out by Stefan Svensson on the opening 2 bends and Franz Zorn was allowed to escape away. Once the Swede had been relegated to third on lap 2, the veteran hitting a bump and losing momentum, Kometsevich was able to chase after the Austrian race leader. Kometsevich tried the cutback coming off every turn and ran out of steam on the final lap. Daniil Ivanov took the impetus in Heat 7 as Dmitry Kometsevich got too much lift in the race to turn 1 on the opening lap. The 2014 world champion moved it back into second place in the overall title race, extended his gap over Kometsevich to 4. 4 riders were in the mix for the lead in the initial staging of Heat 8, led early on by Harold Simmons. Hans Weber incurring the wrath of his fellow competitors as he dived up the inside from the back, collected Jan Klotowski. As the gap narrowed, he brought down 2 riders. In the restaging, Harold Simmons lost the lead twice on his way to second. The veteran had bobbled off turn 2, allowing Jan Klotowski to take the lead, only to hit the front again at the end of the opening lap. Although Klotowski seemed to cross the blue line on the final lap, he certainly used all of the circuit and more to get the win without the referee noticing and took the 3 points. Max Niedermayer retired mid-race. Stefan Svensson and Günther Bauer sat locked in their battle for the last of the top 8 spaces. Meanwhile, Franz Zorn and Daniil Ivanov remained unbeaten after 2 rides, but were set to meet in round 3. Heat 9 was an uneventful affair. Vitaly Kometsevich unable to take advantage of the favourable inside start position as Dmitry Koltukov jetted to the flag. At the back, Markus Gell headed Max Niedermayer at the end of the opening lap, but was overhauled at the start of lap 2 for third. Günther Bauer finally got his first race victory of the weekend in Heat 10, but the local crowd was even more enthralled by the efforts of Hans Weber behind him. German youngster passed Per Anders Lindstrom on lap 1 after missing the start and gradually gained ground on Antonin Kwiatkowski for second. Pounced for the position on the final lap, moving his personal tally up to 3 and all but ending Kwiatkowski's hopes of a semi-final berth. The day's 2 unbeaten riders were joined by Igor Kononov in an attractive-looking Heat 11 lineup. When Kononov missed the start, the race became even more mouth-watering. Desperate to pick up points from the back, in the knowledge that hopes of a championship podium were starting to erode, Kononov roared past Harold Simon on lap 1 and ran his favoured outside line to gain on Franz Zorn. The Austrian was smart, moving far enough to block on every bend. Heat 12 provided some of the day's best entertainment, all behind Dmitry Komitsevich, who zipped away for an easy win. Stefan Svensson was trapped at the back on the opening lap, with wide around Jan Kwiatkowski, who held the curb. The race continued for 2 laps until the Swede finally burst through. And he kept his cool to steal second off the final bend when Daniel Henderson ran wide. The opening 3 rounds of heat races left Daniil Ivanov second on 146 championship points. Dmitry Komitsevich and Igor Kononov tied behind on 142. In the day's standings, Daniil Ivanov was the meeting leader, a point clear of a 3-way tie for second. The Tabau was now one of 2 European race winners on day 2 in Inzel. Franz Zorn slipped from 3rd in the meeting standings when he missed the start in Heat 13. He did manage to recover to 3rd, picking off Hans Weber at the end of lap 1. Dmitry Koltikov and Dmitry Komitsevich were long gone. Komitsevich moving 2 points ahead of Igor Kononov in the championship with second. Daniel Henderson rode brilliantly to recover from a first lap error that sent him to the back in Heat 14. After clipping Harold Simon on the opening tour of the circuit, the Swede had picked off Marcus Gell within 2 turns. Went on to pass Per Anders Lindstrom on lap 2. Simon, though, recorded his first race win of the weekend, left open an outside chance of making the semi-finals. Daniil Ivanov made light work of Heat 15 as he opened a 5-point lead to 3rd in the championship. Meanwhile, further down the order, a bend 2 mistake from Max Niedermayer had allowed Stefan Svensson and Jan Kwiatkowski through for the minor positions. Consistently poor starts accounted for most of Igor Kononov's drop points in Inzel, and one such track left him with an astonishing amount of work to do in Heat 16. This was the type of ride that saves a season, as Kononov found his very top speed to work his way through from last to second, passing Jan Kwiatkowski on the inside before swerving across to the outside to round Günther Bauer. In fact, Kononov would have been deserving of the victory. Such were his immediate gains on Vitaly Komitsevich. Daniil Ivanov, Dmitry Koltikov and Dmitry Komitsevich all have their semi-final spaces secure, while Igor Kononov continued to slip up behind them. Harold Simon was the only rider outside of the top 8 with hopes of qualifying. Franz Zorn returned to winning ways and finished his programmed rides on an impressive 12-point total. The Austrian has averaged over 10 points per meeting, but was set for his best total of the season after this race victory. Antonin Kwiatkowski recorded his best finish of the day at the expense of brother Jan, Marcus Gell failing to score from his 7 rides during the weekend. Igor Kononov was still missing starts, but had found his feet in round 4 with his brilliant series of overtakes and pulled off another brilliant ride to beat main championship rival Dmitry Komitsevich in Heat 18. lap 2 pass moved him to within a point of Dmitry Kometsevich on the day and left him a point ahead in total. Max Niedermayer finished third and moved on to 3. Per-Anders Lindstrom at the back for the 4th time of the day. Daniil Ivanov remained unbeaten from 5 programmed rides, but only just after a second staging of the race was forced by a fall from Hans Weber. The Heat 19 would move Daniil Ivanov onto 152 championship points, 5 clear of his nearest rivals with only 2 rounds of races remaining. Vitaly Kometsevich, aware that a race win would help his brother towards the podium, put in a superb stint, almost pipped Ivanov in the run to the line. Harold Seaman needed results to fall his way in Heat 20 to move through to the semi-finals. Instead, he was down and out as Dmitry Koltakov hit the front and the Austrian found himself disqualified for a fall. In restaging, Stefan Svensson moved on to 9 points and a place in the semi-finals of Gunther Bauer, who would also move through.
Большое спасибо за поздравления. Напряжение было до последнего заезда, то есть все решалось в заключительном заезде. И как бы настраивался впереди приехать, выиграть, но выиграть не получилось. Вторым брату большое спасибо, он помог мне встать на пьедестал.
This is, I say before many time about this season. Was very hard for me season, but now it's second place on the final. On the final, it's a very good result for me, and yeah, very strong fight with Russian riders.
Конечно же, спасибо за поздравления. Боролись изо всех сил, что доказать, что мы первые в этом сезоне, и мне удалось этого добиться. Потерял, правда, 2 очка, но ничего страшного, проиграл Данилу Иванову, Игорю Конову в полуфинале, но в финале смог отыграть, у меня все получилось, спасибо моей команде.
brand new International Touring Car Championship burst onto your screens on Motus TV with round 1 of the TCR International Series in the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur. Sepang is the venue for the exciting launch, and all the action is live on the high-speed television channel. Race 1 Saturday, March 28th at 8:25 in the morning, and we return for Race 2 live Sunday, March 29th at 6:30 in the morning. Argentina is the venue for round 3 of the FIM MX2 and the MXGP World Championship. Belgian Clement Desal's consistency season tops the MXGP standings from champion Antonio Caroli, while Dutchman Jeffrey Hurlings has shown he's over his broken leg by running the table in MX2. Race 1 live on Motus TV Sunday, March 29th at 5 in the afternoon, with Race 2 live at 8 in the evening the same day. The best action from the waters of the United Kingdom is to be found on Motus TV, the P1 Aquacross UK season review, Friday, March 27th at 7:05 in the evening on the high-speed television channel.
World champion Tony Boo heads the list of entrants for the FIM X Trial World Championship on home soil in Oviedo in Spain. Thursday, March the 26th at 10:05 in the evening on the high-speed television channel. Trial action on Motus TV is brought to you by Trial Magazine.
Vienna Neustadt is a first-time venue for the X-Trials World Championship as the season comes towards its climax. Just 2 rounds remain for the competitors to make gains on Tony Boo, who returned to winning ways a week ago in Barcelona. Round 5 of the 2015 campaign sees X-Trial competition return to Austria for the first time since 2003. It's a new venue for the World Championship, the 5,000 capacity Arena Nova, which will be full to bursting tonight, ahead of the debut of German trial starlet Franz Kadlec. Making his debut in the X-Trial World Championship this weekend is 2014 European Trials champion Franz Kadlec, the German competing as a wildcard.
First I was excited about it, and also started to get a little bit nervous because of all the good riders and the difficult sections. Riding the European is not a big difference. Like riding the German and the World Championship is a big difference, and riding the European and the World Champion is not so big difference. I was 2 weeks in Spain practicing very much on the stones, like indoor sections are, practicing much steps, and I will do my best and hope that I don't hurt myself.
With the lead 4 Spanish riders having broken away from the pack, one of the main questions that remains is over the bronze medal. Albert Cabastan is separated by just 9 points from Gironi Fajardo.
Well, for sure it was a good start. We worked hard in the winter, hard on the bike with myself, everything. And at the end, I tried to manage as good as I can the result. Also, we have a good starting order for the first lap. So everything went as we expect, and just this, it was a good day, just showing all that I can do.
His advantage has been on every single race, not only on the overall of the championship. The main thing is he's been on the final every time like me, but he's been on top on the podium.
The battle was reignited in Po.
A hard day for me, not having a good feeling, also just 5 sections. It's easy to play with being outside of the podium. You know, all the riders, Jeroni is really strong, for sure Adam and Tony, so when you have not a good day, one of your best, you play it hard, as I did in Po, normal.
I've been pushing to arrive to this moment, and in Po arrive, I get back some points from Albert to me, and then we were a bit closer then for Barcelona, but in Barcelona again I missed the podium. He's been on the podium again. He increased the gap again. The first step we are doing good. I hope I'm again in the final today here in Austria. But then the important thing is once you are in the final, continue fighting and continue pushing till the end of the race so you can get the podium.
He has been always really close to me, pushing really hard, just 1 point after me, so really close. No, for small things he could be in front. So I'm lucky to be the one who's in front now. I just need to try to focus in every race. We have a small advantage. We should try to manage to our side and just this.
Albert Cabastan and Jeroni Fajardo are among the 7 permanent riders joined in Austria by wildcard Franz Kadlec. 17-year-old debutant Franz Kadlec made his first World Championship lap alongside Eddie Carlson of Sweden. It was a baptism of fire for the German youngster who competed regularly at World Cup level in the World Trials Championship last year, but made a nervous debut in X-Trial competition. After failing Section 1, it was another fiasco in Section 2 that left him on a maximum of 10 marks from 2 rides. Eddie Carlson enjoyed a career best result last time out in Barcelona, narrowing the championship gap to just 7 points. He struggled to make an impact in Austria, failing 5 of the qualifying lap's 7 sections. Franz Kadlec's brave efforts were well supported by the crowd, and after 3 fiascos, he finally made a breakthrough, dropping only 2 marks on Section 4. Carlson ran clear in Section 4 and nudged 4 marks ahead of Kadlec after taking out another 2 marks on his young rival through Section 5. 4-mark gap remained to the finish, with both riders failing a total of 5 sections. Carlson finishing on 26, Kadlec on 30. James Dable cut his championship deficit to Alexandre Ferrer by 2 points last time out in Barcelona, but enjoyed an even more successful X-Trial in Austria. The Vertigo rider finally returned to the form that saw him make 4 consecutive finals last year. He became the first rider to get out of Section 2, immediately separating him from his rivals who struggled through the hazard. 2 marks dropped, 1 through time, and Dable already had an advantage. Alexandre Ferrer, by contrast, was some way short of his best. He failed the opening 3 sections consecutively, and with Dable making it through 2 of them, he'd left himself with too much work to do later in the lap. The Frenchman, it seemed, was locked in a battle with Kadlec and Carlson's totals. Dable dropped what would go on to be a costly mark through observation in Section 4. He remained ahead of Ferrer by 4 marks at this stage, a gap which was maintained to the end of the lap. Section 7 was impassable for each of the first 4 riders of the day, leaving Ferrer a mark ahead of Eddie Carlson, but in a provisional 2nd position with 4 riders still left to ride. The championship battle between Albert Cabestan and Gironi Fajardo continues into qualifying, as the pair lined up against one another for the first lap of the sections. But it was Cabestan who made the immediate impact, the first rider to get through the trunks on section 1, as he made a big stride towards the final. Gironi Fajardo, meanwhile, failed each of the 2 opening sections and slipped behind his target, James Dayville. He sat on a total of 13 from 3 rides. Albert Cabestan's qualification to the final has been under no threat after he dropped just 3 marks from the first 2 sections, but he did have to refocus after a surprise failure in section 3. Fajardo continued to drop marks in the same places as Dayville earlier in the day, but with 3 marks to find on the remainder of the lap, he could ill afford further errors. Cabestan booked his place in the final with a clear on section 5. He went on to notch 10 further marks and finish on a total of 19. Fajardo failed section 6. He did go on to save his day at the last moment, as he went on to become the first rider to make it to the top of section 7. He therefore sat tied with James Dayville on 21. Adam Raga hoped to maintain the pressure on Tony Bow with another strong showing in Austria. He became the second rider of the day to get through the first section of the qualifying lap, matching Albert Cabestan's 2-mark score on the hazard. Tony Bow was the first through the trunks without dropping a mark, and he went on to 4 further clears around the lap in another confident display. Adam Raga was the first rider to make it through the opening 5 sections of the event consecutively. But with 3 drop marks in section 3, he conceded an advantage that Bow would never surrender. The reigning champion dropped his first mark on section 3.